So this is the Arctic Cat 650H1 that used to be our dad's, and got it up on the lift table now so it's easier to work on. And pretty much I know just a little bit of what he said was wrong with it. He said something involving the starter. I think it was involving more of the starter gear assembly than the starter itself, which him or somebody else started already working on it, because the starter has already been removed and we do not have it. That's missing, so we're going to have to get a hold of that somewhere. I priced them, they're not too expensive, but first I want to figure out what all's wrong, because I do not want to dump a bunch of money in this to figure out that there's more issues. You're going to notice today the camera angles probably stink because the camera is broken and it will not mount to the tripod. So that's just one of the multiple things that's going to make this a little harder to film. Anyway though, and also this isn't your normal person talking, because your normal person is running that impact wrench in the background for the backhoe videos where he's rebuilding the engine. Anyway though, so it looks like we got some torn CV joints here, or boot covers I guess you would say. I don't know if they got old and tore. I need to check them all and see if they're dry rot, or if they just got caught on something well it was being used and those tore, because he used this to go fishing and drive it around kind of like a car. And so, and then that's already been removed. And as you can also notice, the shifter linkage is off. All the bolts are pretty much out except for like 3, which I already pulled out, and they are all missing. So I've got to order bolts too, which I checked, and most of the parts places want between $1 and $3 per bolt, even though they're just these little 6mm bolts. So I need to figure out what the deal is there. I need to figure out, I looked around and actually found some other metric bolts online. They're a lot cheaper, so I'm probably just going to go with that. I'm not paying $3 a bolt for just a regular bolt. Nothing fancy or anything. It's not like a head bolt or something. Anyways, we're going to do that. Other than that, it's in good shape-ish. This four-wheeler was kind of a lemon when he got it. He just had endless trouble with it. The plastic's in really good shape because it had one of those cloth camo covers that you can get with these. And so that protected the plastic from the sun, so that was good. And at one point, it has a winch, and at one point, somebody hooked a winch of another four-wheeler to this one when they were pulling it out of the mud or something, and they bent the bumper. So I'll straighten that out. They hooked the winch to the grill to hold the winch cable in place, and when they did, they reeled it in too far and broke the plastic a little because they sucked the front rack down. That cover's missing that goes over the radiator. I'll see if I can find one of those. But this four-wheeler doesn't have very many miles, actually. He didn't use it that much before his health got too bad for him to use it. And in that time, it had, I'm thinking the front or rear drive. Something went out in the drive components and locked up on him once. So he had that rebuilt and took it back to the place he bought it, and they fixed that. Then when they did that or some other maintenance on it, I don't remember. And he took it home and used it for a while, and he was a mechanic himself, and so he did a lot of work. He was always really careful checking oil. He never did anything wrong when it came to an engine. He was a stickler about that. And so it quit on him one day just to find out that the mechanic at the ATV shop he bought it from did not hook back up the air cleaner tube. And when they did that, it had been sucking in all this dirt and dust, and he didn't know it because he assumed they put it back together, right? And it ruined the engine. And the shop said, well, they didn't do it. They wouldn't own up to it. So I don't know why, but he used the same shop. I would have went somewhere else. And he paid, and they rebuilt the engine on it. And so it actually has an engine that probably has less than, I don't know, 20 or 30 miles on a rebuild. Probably. Very little. And so it's got a really recently rebuilt engine. And I'd be surprised if it has 500 miles on it since it was new. Let me lower it down on the table here. I'll take the seat off. And so it's really low miles considering. We went to get it, and the gas cap's missing. Somebody must have swiped it for their four-wheeler. I don't know why. It's been sitting outside, as you can tell from the seat. So we're going to have to flush the gas tank completely out. And I guess the fuel pump's new because there was an old one laying on top of it when we went and got it. The display for the dash, the gauge cluster, I guess you'd say, it doesn't work. That quit less than a month after he owned it. And he should have taken it back to the dealer and complained at them until they replaced it, because I priced a gauge cluster, and they're $350 used, and more like $450 new. And some people said the new ones didn't even work right. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think the gauge cluster is going to have to just be somebody else's problem, because we're planning on just fixing this, getting it running as good as we can, repair everything that's done. We're going to do it right, of course. And then we're just going to sell it. We don't have a need for a four-wheeler like this. And so I'd rather just put the money towards something else. And to be honest, these real big ATVs, I don't like them very much. I like the smaller ones. Something's a little more nimble and easy to get around with. And so if I was going to have an ATV, I'd rather just trade this off for something smaller anyway. So that's going to be the project today. I'm going to start tearing into the starter. Or the starter assembly. These are kind of a weird assembly. They don't have a Bendex. There's a series of gears in the side of the engine. You'll see that here once I figure out how to get it apart. So we'll see how that is. But yeah, so that's what we're starting on. And so we'll get it fixed up as good as possible. Even though this thing just had an engine rebuild, I noticed that the valve cover's already been leaking significantly. And there's oil all over the front of the engine. And so I can't remember what the cycle shop was he took it to, and I don't want to put out names if I don't know who actually did the work. But I'm really disappointed in their work. You know, he had a lot of trouble with it. They didn't warranty their stuff well. Considering I don't know how much he paid for this, but I'm sure it was a lot. You know, they ruined the engine once and went on up to it, and then they rebuild it, and they can't even get the valve cover to seal right. So I'm not impressed with them, but we're going to go over it, get it fixed up as good as we can, and I'll use everything I know to make sure that everything stays sealed the way it should, and it's in good a shape as it could be or can be. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to start on. I'm going to see if I can't get the side plate off. And I have no repair books, and I've never worked on one, so this is going to be fun. So I was told that, well, my dad said once that he thought the gear or something he talked like was messed up in it. And these kind of have a clutch design with the starter. It's not a Bendex like every other normal starter in the world has, because apparently that wasn't good enough for him. So it has this series of gears. And two of these gears, the starter runs against here. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the starter runs against this here. Then this gear here drives this one. And this one drives the ring gear that's here on the back here on the flywheel. And it's just kind of a stupid amount of stuff to mess with. I don't know why they couldn't just figure out a way to use a regular Bendex style starter system like everything else has. It would have been a lot simpler. But he said he thought there was something wrong with the gear or something. I don't know. But since the starter itself's missing, I don't know. Because his brother had the exact same four-wheeler. They bought them at the same time. And so I don't know if his brother took the starter for his, if his went out, since this wasn't running anyway, just used it for a part for temporary, and that's where it went. I don't know if the starter quit, or if the starter is still sitting somewhere over there at his place, and I have no idea where. But I guess I'll start with ordering just the starter motor, because there's really nothing else I can do until I see what that does, because there's a clutch back in here. You see how that freewheels. And I don't know exactly how that clutch works. I've never been in there. I just kind of saw it on a diagram of a place that sells parts. It wasn't even a repair diagram. It was just an exploded diagram. So that's kind of all I'm working off of right now. But these other two gears that are in there, they both seem just fine. I mean, the teeth are nice and straight. There's no wear. Nothing's torn up on them. So it can't be those. They're okay. So I guess I'll just kind of stick this back together a little bit. And I got to clean it off because there's so much dirt on it that fell in there. So we'll get all this cleaned up. And so, yeah, I guess I'll just order a starter and start with that. Maybe I'll luck out. It was just the starter motor that went. I mean, like I said, he had other problems with this thing. It kind of seemed like it was one of those off the line. It had some issues from new. So maybe it had a starter motor that just didn't last as well as it should have. Sometimes that kind of happens, you know. It seems like sometimes you'll get a part that's only 50% from the factory and it's half worn out just when it was new. I've had that happen on a lot of things, so it's not just this. But that might be my start, because before I order things like CV joint covers and handle grips and all of that stuff, I was going to reupholster the seat, and before I do that, I want to make sure the engine itself runs good, because there's no sense if it turns out the engine's no good or there's something more serious wrong. So I guess that's it, and I'll probably drop right back into this in a few minutes with a starter like nothing ever changed. Alright, I finally got everything cleaned and taken apart. Like I said earlier, this side plate was left kind of partially open, sitting out. And so it wasn't real bad. There's nothing damaged or anything. But it had a lot of dirt and grime had blown into it. And so it took a long time to get all that cleaned out. I cleaned it mostly with acetone. which works really well for cleaning up oil and stuff. And a brush and rags and those blue paper towels and junk like that. Used the air hose and blew some of it out. That worked okay. It's just a long process and just tedious. And so, and I made sure I cleaned my gasket area here and stuff really well. And so that way that'll seal up nice. You can't really have any oil at all on those gaskets or where you're going to make your gasket with your sealant. And so you want to make sure it's completely clean. So that's the way it is with cars or anything like that. So I cleaned it with acetone. Acetone just takes oil residue right off. It's about the best you can use. I did get all the bolt holes cleaned out and all the mud dauber nests and gunk out of those. The clean out bolt I made worked really well. So got that taken care of. So I guess now we are ready to put the new starter clutch on this, or the one-way clutch, I think is what they call it.
Okay, so I'm editing this video, and I found I was going to be over an hour so long, so I'm going to stop it here, and I'm going to post part 2 of this video tomorrow. So be sure you stay subscribed, or subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and stick around to watch those videos come up. I have more videos this fall that are going to be coming up of reupholstering seat and putting on the CV boots, and hopefully get those up here next weekend. And if you're waiting for the backhoe videos to come out, just stay tuned, because I'm still waiting on parts to come in, and the weather hasn't been cooperating either. We've been really quite cold, and we got like 6 inches of snow, and now it's insanely muddy. So I wouldn't be able to work on it if I even had the parts laying here. So those videos will be coming out, and hopefully I can get all this sorted and get back to my scheduled programming for you guys once the weather calms down. So be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Make sure to like the video if you like it, and be sure to leave a comment down below. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.